The point is that there are a whole bunch of inconsistencies in this story. We've got a story written by 4 different authors. We know who none of those authors are. The only thing we're certain of is that they're not the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John that the church slapped on there to make them, more appealing to tradition. But they weren't those individual disciples. We have no idea who they were. There's no autograph copies. They don't agree on all the information. There are inconsistencies. They also have factual errors with regard to known history. There's not a single significant event from the life of Jesus that we can corroborate in any extra biblical first century contemporary source. Not one. Not a birthday, not an event. You can't find somebody else who talked about walking on water or loaves and fishes or turning water into wine. Nobody reported any of this stuff outside of the Bible. Nobody talks about at the time of death, or at the before the birth, the mystical star that guided the wise men. That's not reported anywhere else. Nobody talks about.
And it exists in all these other religions, by the way.
Yeah,
that's another element that's very common around that time.
There's not a single element of this story that's confirmable outside of here, and really, and they say, well, that's because we collected the best stories and we put them in the Bible, and it's unfair to disregard the Bible. Okay, I agree. It's unfair on the face of it to disregard the Bible out of hand, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm saying there's no idea who wrote any of this. We have no way of verifying it, no autograph copies, and not only are there inconsistencies, but there are known forgeries in there. This whole issue that you brought up with Mark 16 verses 9 through 20, that is slapped on after the fact to add a few more appearances of Jesus and a kind of spin on the Great Commission that ends up being the basis for Pentecostal churches. Because in that 9 through 20 passage, it says you'll know these people because they'll cast out demons in my name, they'll handle deadly serpents and be able to drink poisonous things and not die. I mean,
so they're false prophets.
Yeah, I mean somebody has slapped this on after the fact, and then somebody else said, let's make a religion out of that. It's in there, and the earliest manuscripts for the Gospel of Mark don't include that passage.
Well, what annoys me with this is you point out these inconsistencies, and then Christians will say, "Oh, well, they're like a bunch of different viewpoints, and because they all kind of sort of agree, it must be true."
Yeah.
And what is it? What is it?
Yeah. There is no it there.
Right.
There's this kind of quasi narrative that almost tells you something. When was Jesus born? Was it, as Matthew's pointing out, when Herod was ruling? Or was it 10 years later, as it's reported in other Gospels, when Quirinius has taken a census?
Well, as far as I know, the birth story is made up much later, right?
You can't, but the point is that you can't, Jesus couldn't have been born at both those times. Those times are mutually exclusive. Herod died in either 4 or 6 BC, and Quirinius' census didn't take place until 4 or 6 CE or AD.
Well, there's 3 different birth lines for Jesus in the Bible. It's like, boy, one wasn't enough. We need 3 conflicting ones. Yeah. You want to? Let's hear the bunny song.
We'll see if we can do this. I don't know if this will work.
Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so.
There's our bunny rabbit.
Okay.
For that, which was just a pleasant surprise when I actually picked it up. I had no idea it made noise, but